Maluku podcast.
Hey, what's good, everyone? Ghazali Ohorella here with Daily Debrief number 8. Well, not from the COP venue, obviously, but from a home. It's been a long day, and it's high time, as what I thought at some point, to go home after having done a lot of meetings, running around, and doing a lot of work in terms of lobbying member states or parties within the COP lingo or UNFCCC lingo in terms of advocating for the rights of indigenous peoples. As a usual as a usual frequently returning thing, I just keep score of how long it took for me to get into the venue today. Yesterday, because there was former president of the United States, Barack Obama, was at the venue, so it took me a lot longer. However, today it only took me like 15 minutes to get into the venue. All right, so it is important to note that we have arrived finally at the ministerial process, the high level segment, the negotiations that will now be occurring between ministers. So no longer the how should I put it, the experts, but mostly the ministers will be taking care of all the language and of all the negotiations. So it's been a long day for me. I'm super tired. So please bear with me in terms of trying to make sense of it, of all this, trying to be audible as well, and trying to get some structure in terms of what the events of the day. As usually we start with the caucus meeting, so the daily coordination meeting of indigenous peoples at COP, and one of the where we get like a brief rundown of what is going to happen that day, or like major announcements that are required, or any side events that are worth mentioning. And these side events that we usually mention are to show solidarity. Like a lot of side events are happening within the Indigenous Pavilion. However, there are also side events that are not happening in the Indigenous Pavilion, but like in other pavilions, or in side event rooms, or in big plenary halls. Those are, in terms of solidarity, it's always good to mention them, saying, hey, I have a side event at 3:00 at the so-and-so pavilion, let's say Panama Pavilion, or the the climate resiliency pavilion, just to let you know. And if you would like to support, please, you'll be more than welcome. I think that is mostly the reason why I believe that we share the events, the side events of the day in the caucus meeting. I myself had an event as well on health and climate change. Not necessarily my niche, not something that I'm very fluent in. However, health, human rights, climate change, those are the things that I am fluent in, or like know a lot about, or more about than just health. I'm not a health practitioner. I'm not I don't study medicine, but I do know the rights of indigenous peoples. I do know human rights, and I do know climate action, and I do know the inner workings of UNFCCC and the policies that are being made. That was at the end of the day. That particular side event started at 6:30 p.m., which is, for me and many other people within a COP context, super late, because there's a lot of things going on, and it's very intense. There's a lot of events that are overlapping. You run from the one meeting to the other meeting in a way that it's all of a sudden you, when you have had like 10 to 15 meetings, and then you look at your watch or on your phone to check the time, and it's only 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. So in terms of Copland, a meeting or a side event at 6:30 p.m. is super late. Anyway, that was at the end of the day. Let's not talk about it yet. What is obviously most important is what do we as Indigenous peoples do in terms of maintaining human rights language in Article 6. That is what I'm focusing on. That is my, at this point, almost like my sole purpose for the negotiations, or to my presence at COP26. Caucus meeting at 9, and then we ended the caucus meeting around 9:45. Thank you so much, Graham and Wanka, for keeping the pace in the caucus meetings, whilst respecting that everything is being dealt with in an appropriate manner. After that, we as a Article 6 team, we try to have we have like daily coordination meetings on, and usually right after the caucus meeting. We started doing that in Madrid, right after the meeting. So what you do in a caucus meeting is you just give a little bit of taste of like what people can, what you know from yesterday, what people can expect, and what they can do. I think like those are the three segments that I try to split my pitch, so to say, or update on Article 6 to the caucus. And I also tell them, well, if you want to know more, if you want to be more engaged in Article 6, if you want to help out with negotiations, then the meeting that we're going to have right after in our office, you're more than welcome to listen into that meeting, or be part of that meeting. A lot of new faces. There's a lot of people there are people leaving as well. Mostly in the second week, starting today, people are leaving, going back home. A lot of new faces, young faces, which is good. Mostly trying to get a grasp of what COP26 is, what's cooking, and what Indigenous peoples are doing actually in terms of the various policies that are being discussed over at COP26. What is interesting is that what might be interesting for people to know is that when we start the meeting, when it's the new people, just do a round of introductions so that we can have an idea of who we're all talking to. And then we just go through, all right, bilaterals. So bilaterals are like meetings that have occurred formally, or mostly formally, between Indigenous peoples representatives and a party. Like what has been discussed, what is the analysis, and how do you move on from here? It's in the conversation that I've had today as well, is that it's all about trying to get all the pieces of the puzzle. Every party has a piece of the puzzle, and you're trying to become smarter. You're trying to see the entire board. You're trying to see what's going on, the big picture, and you need to already see that to be able to influence the negotiations, to know which leverages to push a little bit. And through bilaterals, it is mostly it is trying to become smarter, trying to become a lot smarter than you were before you went into the bilateral. It's not necessarily a session of these are demands and take it or leave it. That's not, most of the times that's not the case. It is more about trying to become smarter, and it's something that I've also explained in the caucus as well. Is that right now it is important that you set up meetings with parties, particularly from Africa and Asia, and if you feel a little bit intimidated to set up a meeting, then obviously we drafted this one page document that you can that you can share, and then there's also the one question that you can answer and that you can ask, and whatever answer they give is important information to you. And that one question is what I gave, and you can ask it in two ways. What is it? What about human rights works for you? Or the other incarnation of it, what about indigenous? What about human rights doesn't work for you? And these are two questions that, when asked, that information is given or an opinion is given that you can work with. They give you an idea of where a certain party stands in terms of human rights and the rights of indigenous peoples. So that is basically what we do. Where we, in terms of bilaterals, the questions that we ask, the explanations that we give. There's a lot of times that parties are asking, well, I'm seeing under your request or your priority under 6.4 activity design. I see that you, in terms of consultation, that you want to have the element of free prior from consent added. Why is that? And if so, if is there a way, given the other parties around the table, is there a way to circumvent that? Or is there a way to mention it without mentioning it, or to refer to it without referring to it? And those are like the conversation that you can have, like sitting across from each other at a table. There are also, and I have to give a lot of props to Reynaldo from Peru. He did a marvelous job today. He did what I would describe as the volume game, which is, if you've seen the images, the Indigenous Pavilion is on an intersection of two aortas. There's a lot of people crossing. Obviously, there's a lot of people interested in it, in indigenous peoples from Brazil, because there's a lot of them, sticking out almost in front of the pavilion. And what he did was, it was like, right, has a copy of the document, and he just handed out to people that had a party badge. What is important right now is an important aspect of that is the volume game. Is that you try to approach as many parties as possible, and try to talk to them and say, well, please communicate this or give this particular document to your minister. There are two games in here, right? There's actually the negotiation game, and then there's the one-on-one. And I think Thomas said it best. Is like, what Reynaldo did was the width, and what I then do is go deep. So he tried to get as much, get this art document on as many eyeballs as possible, and so he hands it out, and then if it's a representative that is interested, that wants to know more, he just grabs me, pulls me out of the office, and says, "Hey, Ghazali, this is representative from party so and so," and then I give a little bit more information, and also tell them, and which is very important right now in these ministerial negotiations, is to make sure that this document goes to the ministers. The experts no longer are in charge of the negotiation, but it's the ministers. So it is important that These documents do not float around just at the level of the experts or at the delegates, but actually get communicated through or sent through to the ministers. So that is the instruction that we give. So, hey, there's a document, but there's also an instruction which is, please send this as soon as possible to your minister. Sometimes we get to put it into their warm hands, and there's some ministers have, or visiting their respective pavilions, and they just sit there and we just have a conversation, and we just give them the document, talk a little bit, and and it's, to be honest, like we made a lot of headway today. There was quite a number of parties, and that from the top of my head, it's like 30, well, 20 parties that we've been able to talk to, and also like from different regions, and from some parties actually they actually like crossed, not across, but like checked, all right, with each paragraph that, or each priority that we had, and we only have 3 actually. All right, this can be checked under the heading of climate justice. Like, so like they already thinking in a way of, all right, if we're going to bring this forward, or if this is going to be discussed, then we can bring human rights on to the dialogue. This all is just in case. Well, so sorry. Now, this is all so that these ministers and these heads of delegation have the proper instructions. Now, there's a certain, how should I say it, schedule. There's a certain agenda involved. The sticky issues that are being discussed, or they're split up, and then there are actually ministers that are actually in charge of facilitating those meetings. Human rights is not coming up because it's not a contentious issue. Can you believe it? Like before, a couple of years ago, like human rights was a contentious issue. Right now, so it seems, it is not a contentious issue. So they're not discussing it yet. So they're dealing with the more complex issues. Does not mean that we are popping champagne and let's say like, all right, well, let's relax for the rest of the week and enjoy a Rangers game or whatever, and chill out at the local pub. That's not what's happening. Like, it ain't over until it's over. So what we do is continue having these conversations with parties. WhatsApp is a very important tool in negotiations in general, as well as at COP26. The number of the phone numbers of negotiators and experts that I have in my phone and that I am in contact with, that I talk to, is not just. It is actually just to share information back and forth, ask questions back and forth. Hey, I heard this. That's the text that I received just like 5 minutes before I went live was like, all right, this is this is what I heard. What do you think? Or this is my proposal for some broader language. What do you think about it? Which brings me to maybe that might be interesting to everyone that's watching and listening. Indigenous peoples, one paper document, priority human rights in the text, consultation in line with free from consent, which is an international standard, which is enshrined in the Declaration of Rights of Indigenous Peoples, and as well as an independent grievance mechanism. Now, there are parties out there that say, there's only one party no, not one, but it's one country that is opposed to human rights. Like I said, it's not a contentious issue right now. At least that's what I believe. That's the idea that's floating in the room. Let's see if we can expand some language, if we can go make it stronger, or if we can add some more elements in there. So the question that I get asked is, well, what do you think about it? From our point of view, the one-page document is the minimum standard. That needs to be secured, whatever happens. Like if you want to add language or paragraphs in terms of participation, in terms of consultations, and for example, under the Sustainable Development Mechanism 6.4, that you do not only include Indigenous peoples in consultation, but also in participation of activity design, or in participation of under 6.2, or participation under non-market approaches under 6.8. Those are, things that they are testing first, see if it sticks, and through these and throughout the testing, they check in. Like, well, what do you think? And I keep saying, the one-page document, that's the minimum standard. We need to have that secured. If that is not secured, like you can play around with participation all you want, but if there's no human rights baseline, and I'm not talking about chapeau, but if there's no human rights baseline, then should not be playing around with additional language. There's some tactics that we've seen that can be deployed by some countries that historically have not been super supportive of human rights and the rights of indigenous peoples. And you float that too. You also test, not test, but you ask them, well, hey, this is what we're seeing. And this is what is a scenario that is likely to unveil. How do you see it? Do you see the same? If so, what can we do about it? If you don't see the same, or if you don't think that that scenario will unveil, what is it that you can, what is it that you can do to ensure for us, in terms of security, in terms of some comfort that the rights of indigenous peoples remains in the text. So, in terms of requesting meetings with parties, in terms of lobbying, in terms of advocacy, it is most of the times is you're seeking champions. It is you're seeking parties that from the likes of, for example, Mexico. Like Mexico has been super consistent, and one of the is a country that I've seen that has been super consistent across the board. And you want other countries that have been supportive of indigenous people to be consistent as well, and to become champions, meaning that they defend language, but they also reach out to other parties to support, to seek support in the language proposals that you have. And the other side of it is that there are obviously parties that are not in favor of the language that you want to that you propose, or that there are parties that have remained silent. It is also very important that you engage in those conversations and try to find out, like I said, what is it about human rights that works for you, or what is it about human rights that doesn't work for you. In the end, if there are parties that are like, well, we have nothing against human rights, but we're not going to push for it, fine by me. Because if you don't want to push it, which tells me that you don't want to push it, which is fine, because we have other countries that will push for it. But if you not going to push it, then make sure that they're not going to block it. So it is a neutral, like, and this is something important to know. A neutral position is also a position. So if a party says, yeah, well, we have nothing against the human rights, but we're not going to actively support it, then that's your cue to say, well, then we request that you at least do not block language that might be supported or maybe be presented or proposed by other parties that are champions. We've met with quite a number of parties as a team. Met with quite a number of parties throughout the day. Super proud of it. Super proud of them in terms of setting up meetings via and setting a very diverse delegation to those meetings, and also bringing in people into the office. Like at some point, I was just I just came out of a bilateral meeting, and I was sitting there just to recuperate a little bit. And all of a sudden, Ini from Panama, he came in. And well, I have this representative from Honduras, and I have this representative from Costa Rica with me. And all of a sudden, door closed, and we start talking. And it is not like horse trading, but it's more about in terms of, again, asking questions and answering questions that they might have. So, and also, what also happened, I was getting a cup of coffee. Well, in my world, I only drink tea, so I was getting a cup of tea with a friend just to have a conversation. And in front of me, standing in line, was actually a negotiator, and she said, "Hey, Ghazali, how are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm great. So Article 6, what's going on?" And the funny thing was, like, right before we went to get coffee, he asked me, like, well, how does it go? These informal negotiations, these back alley conversations or the corridor conversations. And 3 seconds later, we stood in line to get coffee, and this conversation unfolded. So I gave an idea of what I thought was the political landscape, the negotiation landscape, and she confirmed it. And we had a little bit of conversation about the negotiations that are ongoing, and she went her way, and I went my way. And my friend, he was like, "So this is how it goes?" I said, "Yeah, this is primarily like the way how you lobby, how you engage in negotiations, how you engage in advocacy, how you engage in diplomacy. It is, having, continue talking, and being friendly, being creating these relationships, and drinking a lot of tea, or energy drink, whatever you fancy, obviously." Let me bring this to a full circle, because otherwise I don't have anything for tomorrow's daily debriefs. Quite a number of parties that we've have spoken with. The idea was that there potentially would be a stock take, and as well a document that will be provided today. However, what we've learned is that parties were still bringing in language for the text, and so I've been in continuous communication with some of these experts from some of the negotiators, and they didn't even know. Like, all right, I don't know what we'll see tomorrow. So the latest is that there's going to be a stock take tomorrow. Miriam and everybody else in the team, I just saw your WhatsApp. Appreciate it. And so it gives an indication, though, that this particular COP26 will not end on Friday. That is almost for certain. If there was a stock take yesterday and a document yesterday, they could have ended it on Friday. But tomorrow, we'll release the document and the stock deck as well. I think Friday would be super ambitious, or they could do it on Friday, but there would be quite a number of bold changes in the text. And by bold, I mean there would be a lot of stripped language that you only end up with a placeholder text, meaning modalities for a work plan kind of language that actually kicks the can further down the road. And I think that is a potential scenario. But at least human rights is right now in the text. We're still going to keep on fighting. We will just keep on lobbying, and we'll keep on making sure that the language remains in the text. And that's what we're going to do tomorrow as well. So, anything else? No, I think that's it. That's it for today. Daily debrief number something, at least from daily. Obviously day 8, so it's daily debrief number 8. If you have any questions, just let me know, and definitely hang around for daily debrief number 9, because there's today I got to go home early. It's most likely that the next couple of days I'll probably sleep at the COP venue, but we'll see what happens. I have a great team, great people to work with, and I just have another cup of tea. And Tiara Fata Crew, thank you so much for the tea, for the t-shirt. Guys, hope you're doing well. Hope you guys are enjoying the evening, and and people that are watching, obviously, as well. Have a great day, evening, morning, afternoon, or night. Cheers.